Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mom Meets Life. This is one that I am video recording. I am trying my damnedest to get this on video. Gonna maybe do a YouTube page. We'll have some better clips for social media. If you don't follow on Facebook, it's Mom Meets Life on Facebook. Pretty simple. I have invested in a little bit of podcasting equipment. I did get a ring light that I'm staring at right now, and it's blinding me. It's bigger than my head. I also have a new microphone. That looks really inappropriate on camera. But I don't know, do you stare at the camera on your Mac or do you stare at the screen? We're figuring it out. So right now I'm staring at the screen and we're gonna try it. But today we are talking about everyone's favorite topic, which is death and grief. Like really exciting stuff, I promise. No, it's not exciting, but it is real. The one thing we are guaranteed in this life is that we will die. Every single one of us. I know, can you feel, are you uplifted yet? You're going to die someday. You are. We all will. But the beautiful thing about being a Christian is one day you'll go to heaven. And I'm comforted in knowing that. So today we're going to talk about grief. My personal experience with it has been really tough. 2 years ago, my favorite person on this earth passed away, and I've referred to her in previous episodes. I've never said her name because it is a personal story to me. There's a backstory here, but you know what? We're going to get into it. And she was such a light in this world, and I want to honor her legacy and her memory today on this episode. So this one is for Cynthia. So before we get into talking about grief, I usually do a little story in my life. Nothing super exciting this week, except I do live in the South, and supposedly we're getting another round of snow. The last time they said we're getting snow, we got a light dusting. Some of the schools were closed. It was crazy. It was mass hysteria. Everyone bought the milk and bread, and we all soldiered on, and we made it through. No one died. So at least we're not talking about that on today's episode with grief and death. But this week, no one has talked about the weather, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we might be getting 4 inches. And I'm convinced that the meteorologists at this point are just like men on dating apps. So yeah, it's 4 inches, and it's going to be like a light dusting of 1.5 inches. It's inappropriate, but you know what? Fuck it. So anyway, that's really the only exciting thing happening around here. We could get snowed in. By we, I mean me and the dogs, because I won't have the kids this weekend. So I will probably stock up on some wine this weekend and have myself a little pity party because I am, I guess, celebrating. I don't want to say celebrating an anniversary. I'm grieving the anniversary of Cynthia, and that's fucking hard. But I also celebrate because she is in heaven. She was a believer. We talked about God at length. In her final days, she talked about God. Her funeral service was amazing, and it was at her church that she grew up in. So it's pretty spectacular. So it's a bittersweet weekend coming up for me. So my first, I guess, instance with death was when I was 13 years old. I had a friend in middle school who we briefly dated, and by dated, it was like we'd pass notes in the hallway, and he was really funny, and he was just kind of the class clown. Everybody loved him. His name was Michael, and one day I showed up to school, and one of the football players had punched a locker really hard, and I thought that's intense. You don't see that very often. So something felt off, and you could just kind of see it travel through the hallway. Like something was going on. People were crying, people were holding each other, and I'm like, what the fuck have I walked into? Like, this is not a normal day. And mind you, I was in middle school when 9/11 happened, but this was a precursor to that. But I went to class, and our teacher had told us that Michael had passed away in a car accident. And that was really tough to process as a 13-year-old. You're like, "What do you mean he's dead? There's no way. Like, he was just here. We just talked. We just saw him. He was goofing off in the cafeteria, like, being his goofy self. Yesterday, it was his birthday at school, and then I guess they went out for his birthday with his family, and he was in a car accident. He went through the windshield and didn't make it." And you don't really process it, especially as a kid. And thank God I didn't go through anything super traumatic like that. As you know, I didn't lose a parent when I was young. I know a lot of people have had their own experiences with grief at a young age. Luckily, I hadn't had to deal with that. And this was an eye-opener. The thing that really hit with Michael's death was I grew up in white bread Minnesota. When I say white bread, I mean we had like 2 children of different races in my school in Minnesota. Like, we didn't have much cultural diversity, if you will. And my mom moved us to Ohio, and we went to a school in Cincinnati. And I would say half the school was white and the other half was multicultural. So Michael was African American, and his funeral was at an African American church. And I showed up in all black, like I'm wearing right now, other than my bright pink headphones. And, it was somber, and I thought, okay, like, I don't really know what to think of this, because I'd been to a couple funerals of old people in my life that I didn't really know, but this was someone I knew. And the fact that they had an open casket was shocking to me, considering how he died. I thought, there is no way this is going to be something I want to see. But they they put him in there tastefully. He looked ish like himself. It was tough though, as a 13-year-old to see that. They had like a red screen over the casket, and I guess they do that when there's a lot of stitching. I'm not going to get into super gory details, but it was a lot to see that. And if that didn't, send me over the edge, I was sitting down in the pews, and an all African American church is totally different than the church I grew up in. And when the pastor started talking, like, the music came on, and there were these very large and in charge women dancing in front of the casket, to the point where I thought the casket's going to fall over and he's going to just pop out of there. And luckily he didn't, but it was just a shock. I'm like, what is going on? And it was a celebration. They were celebrating that he went home to Jesus. And I didn't know what to do, because I'm just in shock. I was not expecting this by any means. I just start sobbing. Like, this is all I know what to do right now. So I'm just sitting there in all black, crying. And everyone around me is like dancing and putting their hands up and praising Jesus. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is not normal. I don't like this. And I cried so hard. And it was one of those experiences as a kid that just shapes you. You're like, holy shit. So it was a beautiful funeral. And that was kind of my last big experience with grief. I had an aunt pass away who I loved dearly. I didn't go to her funeral, so it was kind of hard to have that closure. All of my grandparents have passed away, and they're older. They lived great lives. My grandma died the day after her 90th birthday. Like, you're celebrating a great life lived. So you can grieve, but it's different when someone younger passes away, or when it's just something you weren't expecting. And that is what happened with Cynthia. So, like I said, it was 2 years ago. I was in the process of getting a divorce. We had signed papers. This had been a couple months in the making. And I have known Cynthia for a very long time. And when she passed away, it just devastated me. I didn't know how life could go on without her, but it had to go on without her. So we're going to kind of get into the backstory of how I knew her and what led to her death, and how I have processed it moving forward. So my parents got a divorce when I was really young. I really don't remember them being married. I have like very few memories of them even being in the same house together. It's just not something I remember. My father introduced us to Cynthia when I was 10 years old. And we went to Chuck E. Cheese, which was, neutral playing ground. We say that as a joke because she was much younger than him. Cynthia was 14, 15 years older than I am. And she was young. So my brothers and I were just kind of joking, like, oh, maybe she hangs out here. And it was a delightful time. We didn't really know what to expect, because here comes this woman that my father's dating, and she's this vivacious blonde. Like, my mom was a pastor. My mom has like dark hair, dark features. So does my dad. And then in walks just this beam of blonde and glitter. She was just so sparkly. Everything she wore, she had like big blingy earrings and just bold, beautiful lipstick. And she was blonde, like fierce. We call it Mufasa hair. And my brothers and I are like, holy shit, like, this is totally different than what we're used to. But we had a blast with her. And the thing I remember most about meeting her is she wasn't trying to impress us. She was trying to get to know us. And she met with each one of us individually to ask, what are you into? Do you watch this show? Do you like this music? And it was just such a one-on-one level with her. And it wasn't trying to impress anyone. It was trying to say, hey, I'm dating your father, but he's he's part of my life and I want you guys to be too. And she really included us in that way. And we had a couple months with her that were just absolutely wonderful. We got to see them on the weekends and we'd always do something fun together, something outdoors, something new, just exciting stuff with Cynthia. And I was a tomboy. This is the only way I know how to describe it. I was rough and tumble. I grew up with two older brothers. My mom worked all the time. My dad worked all the time, and my dad's a man, so like he wasn't going to teach me how to be feminine. My mom did her best, but I think her not being around because she was working so much, I just was kind of raised by wolves. My brothers were the most bulldogish dudes. Like they were sports loving, like tough, rough and tumble guys. My one brother was involved in theater, but he still was like a rough dude. And I had the shit beat out of me so much when I was a little girl. So no part of me was ever super girly. I didn't have glittery things. If I had any type of Barbie, it was parachuted off the roof and destroyed. And that just wasn't me. So to meet this, like, just glitter bomb of a person and to have her come into my life, it was unnatural for me. I didn't really know how to process that. It's like, okay, you're super girly, and just because I'm a girl, it doesn't mean I'm going to be into this too. And I would make fun of her for her love of glitter. And as I got to know her more, I'm like, it's kind of fun to dress up. Like, I kind of like this makeup. Like, I kind of like wearing lipstick like this. I wanted to be like her. She was one of those people that no one could hate her. She was just so nice and so genuine and so kind. So she really shaped my youth. And when I was in fourth grade, my mom had a full time position offered to her in Ohio for the ministry. So we moved to Ohio, and Cynthia and my dad took us out for kind of our last family outing before we moved. And it was such a sad day because they knew we were moving. We knew we were moving. It's hard to move states away from your other parent. And, we had just recently been introduced to her, so we didn't have that much time with her. And she brought this film camera. I mean, digital wasn't even a thing then. And she brought a camera and took a bunch of black and white photos of us and our dad. And getting those pictures back, I still have them to this day. Like, it was amazing to see just kind of this last day together. Like, we weren't going to die. We were moving away, but it's still, as a kid, that sucked. So we spent the whole day together, and it was just this beautiful moment getting to say goodbye to them. And then when we moved away, she made such an effort to stay involved in our lives. And of course, my dad did. Like, he's my dad. So I loved going to Minnesota. I loved visiting them. I loved going out. She had a boat in the family. It was like a family boat that had been in the family for years. And this was like her passion. The boat was like the place to be. If you knew Cynthia, you'd been on the fucking boat at some point. And I learned at a very young age how to drive the boat, how to bring the anchor up, how to like take care of all things boat. Like, you had to be on it if you were going to drive or ride in this boat. And we spent so many summers on Lake Minnetonka. It sounds like a Prince song, if you know any Prince references. But our time on the lake was just so special. And I loved every minute with her. And we would go in the summers, on holidays, whenever we could. One of my one of my favorite memories, and I shared this at her funeral after party. We'll get to that. I was in fifth grade, and my dad met my mom halfway to pick us up for Christmas. And we drive to Minnesota. It's freezing out, and I'm like scratching my head so much, just scratching. And I'm like, God, like, it is painful. And my dad's like, it's just dry scalp. You'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there scratching my head. At one point, I had like a spray bottle, and I was putting my head like in a fan. I was like, oh, it's just so good. Like, I hate dry scalp. And Cynthia took me to the bathroom. She's like, "Hey, before you take a shower, like, let's just sit you down for a second." And I'm like, "Okay." So she sits me down. She kind of looks through my hair and she's like, "I'm just checking your scalp." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Okay, take your shower." What I didn't know was my hair and head were infested with lice. Like, I had a really bad case of lice. So she told my brother, "Do not tell your sister she has lice. I am going to the store to get medication, and I'm going to need a lot of it because it's really fucking bad. But don't tell her anything." And he's like, "I won't say anything." Second, the door closes, I hear my bathroom door just burst open, and it's my brother. He's like, "Sarah, you're dirty and you have lice." I just start sobbing. I don't know what to do. I'm like 11 or 12 years old. I'm like, "Oh, what?" It was awful. And so my poor dad, poor Cynthia, like, we're there for maybe 2 weeks at best, and they have to deal with a massive lice infestation. So she gets the medicine, and these fuckers are not dying. Like, they refuse to die. I don't know if they were like hardy little fuckers, but they did not want to die. So she had to do several treatments. At one point, we put saran wrap on my head, not over my mouth, don't worry. We put saran wrap on my head and then like blow dried it to see if they would die. Eventually, they're all dead. She brushes them out of my hair. The storm has passed, if you will. And Christmas Eve rolls around. And Cynthia's moms always had an amazing Christmas Eve party. They would order Lian Chin, which was like an amazing Chinese food chain in Minnesota. And they would order that, and we go, and it was like fancy and fun. And I remember Cynthia telling my brothers, "Hey guys, Sarah's really sensitive about the lice situation. Please do not go in and tell anyone that she had lice. Like, it's as a girl, like, that's embarrassing." And my brothers are like, "Yeah, we won't do anything." Yeah. My brother bursts in the door yet again. He's like, "Hey, everybody, my name's Nate, and my sister has lice because she's dirty." And I'm like, fuck. So I cried in the bathroom for several hours, and she consoled me and made sure I was okay. But it was quite the memorable experience. So as time went on, my dad and Cynthia got a divorce. And since then, I have an incredible stepmom in my life. She's one of the most wonderful people I know. Like, I am not upset that they got a divorce, but at the time it was really hard because I was a teenager. I was navigating life as a teenager. This is someone who was really important in my upbringing. So I didn't know how things were going to work out. At that time, my dad moved away from where he lived, and Cynthia stayed in the house. And I didn't know, do I still go visit? What do I do? I don't know how to navigate this. So, knowing now, going through a divorce, I have kids. I have biological children with my ex husband, and we co parent, and like, these are always going to be our children. But when you're a step parent, you're involved with these kids. And if you get a divorce, it's like, what the fuck do we do now? Like, those aren't your kids. You don't have custody of them. Like, how do you stay involved in their lives? So she did an amazing job of not being pushy, of not saying, like, "Oh, I hate your dad. You should like me." She never once, in any moment of knowing her, ever badmouthed my father, which is incredible. Because, I've had moments in my own divorce where I'm like, "I hope he gets hit by a bus." And she never once said that. It was such grace and compassion that she had. She just genuinely loved us, and she wanted to show up for us. She came to my high school graduation, my college graduation, my wedding. She knew my ex husband from the time I started dating him. She had been involved in my life, and she was there not for the birth of my children, but she was involved. She came to visit to meet my kids. Like, this was someone who showed up, and she didn't have to do that. We weren't her biological kids, but she never had children. Even after the divorce, she didn't remarry. And it was kind of scary to think, like, what if she remarries and has kids? Like, are we still going to be important in her life? And I know in my heart, if she had her own children, we still would have been important to her because she loved us and we loved her. And it takes such humility and kindness to continue to build relationships with kids that aren't your own. And sorry, I'm going to get emotional. She did. She showed up all the time. Um, One really special thing about Cynthia, she was raised by two moms, and that can be tough on a kid, especially in her era growing up, it wasn't as accepted as it is now. I can only imagine. My parents are my parents are my parents, but they have their own stuff going on, but I didn't experience the same childhood that she did. And she was raised by what was called the village. And when I was young, I'm like, is it like the village people? Like, this is cool. They were called the village. And her moms had this group of people that were there for her at all times. And they were incredible people. Anytime I would go to Minnesota and visit, I remember feeling like a fucking rock star because the village would show up. And I didn't know every member of the village, but I knew many of them. And a lot of these people were powerful, strong women. And they shaped me into who I am today. Because again, I had really dominant brothers, and my mom was a woman in the ministry, trying to, carve her own path and all of this. And it's like, as a girl, you're just trying to figure everything out. You're trying to be strong. You're trying to know who you are as a person. And in this crazy world where we've always been told that we're not enough, anytime I went to Minnesota, I was enough. I was more than enough. And these women would encourage so much. Like some of them would sit with like scotch and a cigar. Like that's how badass these women were. And I loved it. Cynthia would not touch scotch or a cigar. She would have a Bacardi Limon and Sprite and a feather boa on. Like not that type of woman at all, but she was still strong and powerful. And she was raised by strong, powerful women who had strong, powerful women surrounding them. I remember after the divorce, I continued to make an effort to go back to my home state. And, I could see it being upsetting for a parent, oh, we've divorced. Like, why do you still have a relationship with them? And Minnesota was the only thing to me that felt like home. My parents moved. I had different houses growing up. You're back and forth between two households and different states, and nothing feels like home. And when I would go to Minneapolis to see Cynthia, it was home. I can still feel like the weight of the keys when I would turn the keys in the door. I can still smell like the porch, the screened in porch. Like I can still everything about that house, I still know in my memory, and it's one of the best memories. I knew every color in that house. I knew the chandelier in the bathroom. Yes, there was a chandelier in the bathroom because why wouldn't there be? It was bright. And Minnesota's fucking cold. Let me tell you, it is very cold. Like I live in the South now and people are like, it's bitterly cold temperatures. I'm like, no, it's not. But this house was so warm all the time. Whenever you walked in it, it's like, this is home. And that was my home. And it shaped me into who I was. And even now, I'll have dreams of being back there. If I'm at a low point, I find myself dreaming about being back in the guest room and being able to push open the door next door and say, Cynthia, can I come snuggle with you? And she'd be like, come on, sweets, let's do it. We'd watch terrible reality TV and we'd eat snacks and drink Diet Coke. And it was just some of the best memories of my life. And it was home. So I know she's not here, but I can still feel her. I know that's a really weird thing to say, but I would tell her if she were in front of me right now, thank you for giving me a home because I needed that in my life. So then after their divorce, after navigating how do we have a relationship, she and I would talk all the time. It was just, she was my bonus mom. And my own mom, she could, I think, oh gosh, like, is she jealous? Like, how does she feel about this? Because, Cynthia has died and my mom has to sit there and listen to us talk about her all the time. And my mom is just, this is someone who helped raise you. She, she co-parented. Like, I give her kudos. My mom loved Cynthia. So that's pretty spectacular. But after the divorce, I would still go back and visit. And then, I became an adult. I went to college. I got married. My ex-husband and I went back to my home state a couple of times, and she loved him. She loved being involved with my life. She loved hearing about my kids. She was another part of my family, and it was a spectacular thing to have. And she was my person that I could go to for literally anything. So when everything happened with my divorce, I say that it came out of nowhere. when it happened and looking back on my life and things that were leading up to this, there was a lot of shady behavior happening that I was ignoring. I've talked about this in a previous episode, and I probably will get into it a little bit more in depth in another episode, but I had a brain injury. I was not doing well. I couldn't remember my own name at one point, and Cynthia championed for me. She would talk to doctors. Her moms were amazing in the medical field, and Cynthia knew what to ask and how to help from afar. And she was like being a champion for me, which was incredible. But in this time, there were some shady things happening in my life. I'm not going to get into them right now, but I I should have seen the writing on the wall, and I didn't. And I could attribute that to my brain injury. I attribute a lot of it to I loved my husband, and I thought he hung the moon, and I would have taken a bullet for him at any point. So when it really did get to the point where we were going to get a divorce, I'm like, holy shit. So I signed the divorce papers, even then thinking, okay, maybe we'll still make it work. All the while he's dating the woman he told me not to worry about. Like I was just like an afterthought to him. But I'm thinking, okay, well maybe we'll make it work. And I would call Cynthia and I would talk to her and I'm like, well, this and that. And she's like, you know that he loved you and you know that he'll always love you. And I'm like, yeah, positivity, peace and love. Everything's gonna be fine. It wasn't. Like, he was gone. He left me and she was there. And what I didn't realize at the time, in my worst time of my life, she was fighting for her life. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I did. So shortly before I signed divorce papers, Cynthia had kind of a medical scare and she was in the hospital for a little bit. Her ammonia levels had been heightened, and we realized she had a liver condition. And I thought things were getting better, and she really was hopeful that they were. And at one point, she was hospitalized again. And when they released her, she actually went to stay at her mom's house to be taken care of because they're medical professionals, they're incredible women. Like they know what to look for. And in the time that I was processing my divorce, she was there. And a family friend of mine said, honey, I know that things are really hard for you right now, but we have to be as positive as we can for her. And I knew when she told me that things were really bad because she wouldn't have told me that. She knew how important Cynthia was to me and how much I needed her. So for her to say, like, hey, we got to pump the brakes on any talk about that, like, and you could say like, "Oh my god, I can't believe someone would tell you that." I appreciated her telling me that because Cynthia did need her strength, and I kept it. I held it in. I did everything I could to just hold it in, and I didn't let it out. I'm like, "I'm not gonna tell her. It's gonna be fine. Like, she knows what's happening, but we need to focus on her." So, around the holidays, one of my brothers came to town. He lives 24 hours away, and my other brother, we don't have a great relationship, but we all went to dinner with my dad. And Cynthia had said, I would love to have a picture of you guys together. I know that you have had a lot of conflict with your brothers, but if I could just have a picture of the three of you, that would be incredible. So I didn't want to go. I'm like, ugh, gosh, I don't want to do this. This sucks. Like, if I have to sit there and listen to my egotistical brother talk about his life the whole time, like, I want to just jump through a window. But I did it. And it was a good visit. And I sent her the picture and it warmed her heart. I knew she needed that. And she asked if she could do a Zoom call with me and my one brother who was in from out of town. And I said, Cynthia, we can FaceTime. You have an iPhone. She's like, oh, let's do that. So we FaceTimed her. She was on the couch in her mom's house. And she didn't look like herself. We knew that she was sick. And we said, do we need to get up there? Like, what do you need from us? She told us that she was probably going to need a liver transplant. And we said, we're Googling, what does this mean? We don't know anything. We're not medical professionals. I work in marketing. I don't do healthcare shit. So I'm Googling, my brother's talking to her. We're trying to figure it out. And I'm like, do you need a partial? And she's like, it could be like that. We're like, look, we're going to go get tested and see if we're a match. And we're like, my brothers are war veterans. Like they went into combat. They're ready for anything. And I'm a helper. So I'm like, let me see what I can do. And we expected, okay, maybe a partial. And a couple days later, she went to the hospital and she never left. So shortly after Christmas and going into the new year, we were, waiting on updates. Of course, she's in the hospital. We're trying to be respectful of her time, but she's our lifeline. We're like, we need you. Like she was our everything. And we had some family friends who were in communication with us, so they kind of became the liaison for us when it started to get really bad. And it was determined that she would need a full liver, um, which would be a transplant. And that is such a weird thing to experience with someone you love because you're you don't know what to pray for. You're praying that they get better, but when the doctors say you have to have a full liver to survive, then you're thinking, "Well, I don't wanna pray for that because then you're hoping someone dies." Like, that's an awful thing. You don't and, we talked about this, and we're like, "Well, people die every day, and maybe when it's their time to go, they were supposed to go so that they could give her a liver." And we're, like, we're bargaining before someone even dies. We're bargaining with God, like, "Oh, can you take this person so this person will live?" And it's a horrible place to be. You don't want that. You don't wish death upon someone. There's some people I would wish death upon, but that's another story. No, I wouldn't. I digress. Um, so it was a tough thing to be told. And we're like, okay, she's going to get on the transplant list. Like we're in that mindset now. Like first it was, we didn't know she was sick. She's really sick. Shit, she needs a partial transplant. Oh crap. Like now she needs a full liver to survive. And we're just like, we're going with it. It's a different battle plan every day. And, I'm at that point a month away from officially being divorced, a month and a half away. And in the time that my ex-husband left, my house had flooded and I'd been laid off from my job, like literally the same week. So I had started a new job that I hated. I talk about this in a previous episode, but we had a bunch of conferences coming up and I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to provide for my family. And I'm like, I don't want to go to this conference. Like, I want to spend all of my time in Minneapolis sitting by her bedside, but you can't because you have to continue to live while someone else is fighting for their life. And it's tough and you feel guilty. You feel just shame and guilt the whole time. But we just soldiered on and we prayed every day. And I would talk to her. We would text. Sometimes her texts were completely like unreadable. I had no idea what she was saying, but she was trying. I could start to decipher what she was saying, but and I don't mean to make light of it, but she would also laugh that it was just like, what? What are you saying? But it was the thought that counts. So as time went on, a family friend told us that it was time to come to Minneapolis. And we stupidly still thought, okay, there's still a chance. Like, she's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. So I had back to back work conferences, and I was able, in the middle of all of this, to schedule time to come to Minneapolis. And the incredible thing is the job that I was laid off from, they laid me off right before a work trip that it credited me on an American Airlines flight. And the flight that I got to Minneapolis is almost the exact same amount as that flight that I was credited. So I was able to fly up there. Is one of the coldest weekends that they had had. They had like the national ice hockey, like outdoor ice hockey league championships on the TV. I'm like, yep, we're back home. And it was fucking cold. She was at a university hospital up there. And it was really odd not staying at her house. They had actually rented the house out because she hadn't been there. And not being able to go home was just like, what? You're this is weird. I don't want to stay in a hotel, but I did. It was close to the hospital and I could walk there. And I went to see her. My flights were delayed. I was frustrated, but I got an entire night with her. Well, actually, an afternoon and a night with her before my brother arrived. And when I got there, she was having a procedure done, which took a bit of time, and she hadn't eaten all day. And when I came into the room, just seeing what she looked like, I'd been warned that she's not going to look like herself, and I thought she'll be fine. Like, it's Cynthia, she'll be fine. She didn't look like herself, and it really set in that she wasn't doing well, and there's a chance she's not going to make it. But I was still there. And I was like, damn it, we're going to get through it. Like, she always said, strong like bull. Like, we're going to make it. Like, you're not going anywhere. We're going to do this. Like, sit your ass in that hospital bed and like get better because we can't do this without you. So she had this procedure, and afterward, she she laid in her bed and she said, how are you doing? And I was at the foot of her bed and I was like, I'm fine. Like, I'm thinking about what the family friend said, like, do not speak about anything negative, like, all positive energy, everything's going to be fine. Like, we have to give her everything positive. So I'm like, damn it, don't say anything. And I'm like internally absolutely drowning. She's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. How are you doing? Let's focus on you. What do you want to eat? And she's like, Sarah, how are you really doing? And I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I just sobbed. I just absolutely broke down. All of that holding it back, all of that keeping it together for the kids, keeping it together for myself, keeping it together for my job, keeping it together for my own sanity just came pouring out. And I was just like ugly crying in this ugly hospital room. So hot in there. She had the heat up to like 90 and I'm just sobbing. And she's like, come here, sweets. And she made me, she did not ask. She said, like, you coming up here? And I laid next to her. I put my head down and she just stroked my hair. She said, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. I'm here. You're going to be okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be just fine. Like, life is going to be great. Damn it. We're going to make it. And it was incredible just knowing that this person in the worst moment of her life, at the literal end of her life, is making sure that I'm okay. And that's, you can say all day that you're not really a mom unless you give birth to a kid. That's a mom. That's what moms do. Moms put everything on the line for their kids. They put everything going on in their life aside to make sure you're okay. And she did that. And it was just an incredible moment with her. I don't believe in doing brand deals, but whoever made this mascara may want to sponsor this podcast because if it does not stream down my face by the end of this, like, damn, it's really waterproof. So after our little kumbaya session, she's like, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten all day. Let's get some food. I'm like, okay, what do you want? She's like, do the thing on your phone. I'm like, what thing on my phone? She's like, the thing that gets the food, Sarah. I'm like, Uber? She's like, yeah, that thing. Just do it. So I pull up Uber Eats. I'm like, what do you want? I'm thinking, you've had shitty hospital food. Maybe she's going to want like a baked potato. And she's like, I want a cheeseburger. Like, okay. We ordered the greasiest cheeseburgers from Five Guys. She's like, I want this on it. I don't want that. Do not mix this. Make sure this is exactly how I want it. I'm like, absolutely, whatever you want. Like, yes, ma'am. So we ordered cheeseburgers and fries and milkshakes. And I did her makeup, and her makeup looked beautiful. She always loved when I did her makeup and brushed her hair because she's so girly. And we spent time together, and it was incredible. I went back to the hotel. And my brother came in really late that night, and we got there first thing the next morning. And she had dialysis that day. When your liver starts to fail, other organs start to shut down as well. So she couldn't officially be on the transplant list until things in her body settled down. So we're like, okay, she's going to get dialysis. Her kidneys are going to be great. And then she's going to get the damn liver. Like, we're so stupid. We didn't know anything. And we're like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So she goes to get dialysis. We spend some time with my brother and we prayed with her, and it was just a great family session. And our pastor from our church when we grew up, where my mom first started in her ministry. I mean, she had been a minister before, but she got back into the ministry at this church. Our youth pastor actually came to see Cynthia with us, and he prayed for her. And he said, Cynthia, I've been in this wing before with people getting dialysis, and they say, I'm not going to die. Everything's going to be fine. And I'm like, we should pray just in case. And they don't want to. And he asked what her relationship with God was like. And she's like, oh, listen, let me tell you. She in her sickest state, she's just not doing well. She's like, I have a care team, a prayer team. I got people here. I got people there. Her village showed up, and she made her own care team. And it was like her end of life, like Jesus warriors. So she had different people from church and other areas of her life pray with her. She was a Christian and she was ready to go to heaven if it was time. But she was adamant that she was not going to pass. She's like, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But I'm a warrior. I'm going to fight this and I'm going to be around. And my brother and I are like, hell yeah, she is. Like, we're going to do this. Like, everything's going to be great. Yeah. And so we're praying and, it's still in the back of our head that maybe she's not going to make it. But we're like, no, she's totally going to make it. You're in denial. You go through the stages of grief before grief happens. Believe it or not, like bargaining, denial, anger, all of it. You go through it before someone actually dies. So she gets dialysis and her body was just worn out. And you could tell how tired she was. And we sat with her afterward. They took her back to her room. We got to spend a little bit more time with her. And I had to go to the airport. My brother spent just a few more hours there. And then he went to the airport the next day. And we said our goodbyes. And I texted her to let her know I had made it home. It was like 10 p.m. I made it home, had to fly out the next morning at 5 a.m. And she told me to go kick ass at my conference because that's what I do. And that was the last text I got from her. 1 week later, she got an infection and they were treating it with heavy antibiotics and other things. And they had to stop dialysis because of this. And I'm not going to get into all of the specifics of the medical part of this. But there was a chance she could get better. And we were praying and rallying and thinking she's going to make it. Like, I still was in denial. I thought she's going to make it. She's not going to die. She's 50 years old. She's not going to die. And on February 2nd, it was almost 2 weeks after I had seen her, I got a call. I got a text saying, hey, I'm on my way to see her. Her best friends and her family are there, and they're saying goodbye. Again, I won't get into the specifics, but there are life-saving measures that can be done at the end to keep you alive, that she didn't want. She wanted things on her own terms. By no means was she giving up, but she said, like, do not do this to me. Do not do this. I want this. I want this. And like, this is how it's going to be. And they agreed to it. And again, she had many medical professionals in her life who worked with her on a plan, and they agreed on a plan, and they did it her way. And on February 2nd, I got the text that her friend was going there. And I said, could I talk to her on the phone? I knew that she couldn't talk back, but I knew she could hear me. And he's like, yeah, that would be fine. And everyone, it's a hard thing, again, to be the ex-step kid. Like, you don't want to walk in like, I'm the daughter. I get priority here. But you also want to respect, like, that you had a relationship. And anyone who knew her knew we had a very amazing relationship. And they let me talk to her. And I know that she could hear me. And I am going to read what I sent to her. And you're going to have to bear with me. Again, mascara endorsement here. Life lessons from the woman who sparkled. Always make sure someone brings ice to a party. No matter how prepared you are, you can never have enough ice. Put out a cheese tray. Even if it's a questionable block of cheddar you found at the back of the fridge. If it smells okay and you have some Triscuits, a cheese tray is a must. If you don't have the same work ethic as her mom, don't bother showing up to work at all. She was very adamant about that. Anything above 40 degrees is patio weather. Cynthia had this deck, and she was in the direct flight path of the Minneapolis airport, which is a very busy airport. And she didn't care. Like, we're going on the deck. Even if there's 1,000 planes that go by, we're doing it. And if it's freezing out, who cares? We're doing it. When sitting on the deck at Cynthia's house, which was in the flight path of the airport, you do not stop and wait for the plane to pass. You simply talk louder. Yellow lights are to be taken as a challenge, not a caution. Diet Coke is the only acceptable answer to the question of how do you take your coffee. When I say this woman loved her Diet Coke, she couldn't function without it. Like, every morning it's like, do you need your Diet Coke? And she just can't sit everywhere. So it was awesome. Every birthday, you must wear a feather boa and a tiara. There is no exception to this rule. If you aren't on Lake Minnetonka during every sunny summer day, what are you even doing with your life? Minnesota is the center of the universe. And there's always time for a dance party. No matter how hard life gets or how down you may feel, you can take the time to dance. To our dancing queen, we will love you forever. So after I hung up the phone, I called my brother, and I believe he was able to call as well. I don't remember the specifics because I was in just a fog. Like my mind was not in a good place. But I was still in denial. Like, maybe something's going to happen. Grey's Anatomy moment. Like they're going to revive everything in her and she's going to be great. And I did think, well, if she really is going to pass, like, I want to make sure she knows we're celebrating her. And I don't know why I thought to do this. I don't know if spiritually she could see it or hear it, but I just knew in my heart it was something I needed to do. So my twins, they were having a birthday 2 days later, and I was talking to them about how much she loved tiaras and boas and dancing. And I had actually made Cynthia a playlist for her 50th birthday, which was a year ago from when this all was happening, and we turned it on Spotify, and my girls and I just danced, and we danced for like 2 hours, and we were yelling like, Cynthia, if you can hear us, we hope you have a great journey to heaven. And it was just such a special moment. And, they had no idea what was going on, but we danced. And that night, I said, do you guys want to lay outside and look at the stars? And it's February. It's still cold here. I mean, it's not Minnesota cold, but it's cold. And we laid out blankets and I looked up at the stars. I've only seen one shooting star in my entire life, like as a kid. I don't see them ever. And as we're laying out, I was talking to Cynthia and I said, I have loved every moment that I've gotten to have with you. And I told her it's okay to go, that we're going to be okay. We've got this. And I swear, right as I said that, I saw a shooting star and it was just spectacular. So I went to bed. And of course, the next morning was my daughter's birthday party. We had this makeover birthday party, and they had like 8 friends coming over to get their hair and nails and makeup done and have a little dance party. So I'm like, well, maybe Cynthia's going to make it a little bit longer and I can talk to her again. And I got a text around 9 a.m. the next morning that said Cynthia had passed at 2:11 in the morning. And I was at peace, but I was broken because it felt like the disco ball just stopped spinning. It felt like the lights on the dance floor were just cut off. The party was over and it was devastating. But I was still mom and I knew Cynthia loved birthdays. Like this was like birthdays were her thing. So I knew if I didn't show up for my kid's birthday, like with tiara on, like ready to fucking roll, that she would come and like smack me down from heaven. Come down from heaven and smack me. So like, okay, I got to be mom of the year, like put on this birthday, have a great time. My kids didn't know anything going on. We got through it. And then that evening I just fell apart and I got to really process what had happened, but you still don't process it until there's a funeral. But my mother came to Minneapolis. My mom, who lived in Ohio at the time, drove to Minneapolis to come be there with me and my brother. Like, that's spectacular. That's a mom. Once again, it's what moms do for their kids. So my mom went with us to the funeral. And I remember walking in the church, and this is a church I'd been to many times. It's the church she grew up in. It's where she married my dad. It's where, when I would visit, we'd go to church. She drove the church ladies around on this bus. Like, she loved her church. And I remember walking in thinking, I have to go see Cynthia. Like, she's here. I need to see her. My brother's like, she's not going anywhere, Sarah. You can take a second. It's okay. Greet some people, have some coffee, like, see people you haven't seen in a while. And I'm like, I have to see her. Like, she's in there. She's waiting for me. And it was such a weird thing because she's not there. And my brother told me that. He said, her body's in there, but she's not there, Sarah. Like, she's in heaven. Be okay with that. Like, her body is going to be there. You can take your time to grieve and see her, but just take a chill pill. It's going to be okay. And I didn't know how to process that. I was just an absolute mess. I wanted to be by her body. So nothing can prepare you for seeing your favorite person in the world in a coffin. It's just impossible. That's not something any book, any training could ever prepare you for. You're not ready. Even though they've been dead a few days and you're like, okay, we're going to a funeral, we're going to grieve. You're still not ready. You show up and it's like, holy shit, this is real. And that's why open caskets to me are very important for the grief process. I think everyone grieves differently. I have had friends who are like, I never ever go to an open casket funeral. Like, I don't want to see it. I I had to see her and it made it real, especially since I wasn't there when she passed. It was it was needed. And I remember one of her best friends was standing there with me the second time I went up. And I'm like, there's a whole line of people behind me. Like, I need to let them see her. And he's like, Sarah, you can take as much time as you need. They'll understand. So once again, I go to Minneapolis and feel like royalty because I got first dibs on hanging out with Cynthia. So the funeral was everything I expected it to be and more. Um, so she passed right before her birthday. And this was going into her birthday weekend. And they kept talking about how, most of us would have been gathered here today, not at church, but having cocktails with Cynthia for her birthday. And after the funeral, we went to the VFW because it's the Midwest and that's what you do. And there was a whole spread of food. There was shrimp cocktail and all sorts of yummy food and an open bar because it's the Midwest and she wanted a party. So everyone was wearing tiaras and boas because that's what she would have wanted. She always had a tiara and a boa at all times. At any given point at her house, you would have a boa on, but especially at birthdays. So we celebrated, and it was toast after toast after toast that people gave. And it was such an incredible party. But the one person you wanted to be there wasn't there. And that is such a surreal feeling because you're like, yeah, we're talking about Cynthia and remember this, remember this. And she's not there. It's just pictures on a screen scrolling through of her life and the memories that everyone had with her, and it's devastating. The next day, her mom let me and my brother go to the house and look around, and it was very different. They were getting ready to, sell it. They had painted over all the fun colors to make it more neutral. And I remember going up to the guest bedroom, and I just sat on the bed and I talked to Cynthia, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. Came to see you, and I wish you were here. And it was just such a weird feeling. The house was so quiet. And it wasn't just because, it was just us in there and she wasn't there. It wasn't like she was at work. Like you knew she was never going to be there again. And you're in this house that had so many memories, so many joyous times where I would visit and we'd have cocktail parties and we'd sit on the couch and talk about life and we'd braid each other's hair. Like this was such an incredible place with so many incredible memories. And you're looking at it and thinking, this is the last time I'm ever going to be here. And that's awful because it's like a whole other death in itself. And you're grieving your favorite person, you're grieving your childhood, you're grieving so much. And I got to say goodbye. My grief experience has been an odd one because it happened at the worst time in my life. There are people who they lose a parent or a sibling or something awful, and it's a shock and it happens and, it's still grief. But when this happened, it was the absolute worst time in my life. And anytime I had even the slightest inconvenience in my life, I would call Cynthia. You're never going to believe what my boss said today. You're never going to believe what my dog did today. And she's like, all right, let's talk about it. She was there for everything, literally everything. Oh, I have a hangnail and it hurts. And she's like, okay, well, have you tried this? So then to have your husband leave you, like it's kind of a big deal. And to become a single mom and have to refinance your house and your house flooded and like your life is falling apart. I didn't have her. And I'm like, how the hell do I navigate this without you? So I went through so many different stages of grief in so many different waves of them too. I was mad. Like there are times that I was angry. And I'm like, I know I told you that I'd be okay, but I'm mad that you're not here. And it's crazy the shit that you go through when someone dies. And her village that took care of her, they have a lot of them have taken care of me. I've had many of her friends and family that I didn't know very well reach out and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you." I would put, a status on Facebook and say, "Hey, here's what's going on in my life. I'm not doing well right now." And I will immediately get a message from someone in Minneapolis like, "Hey, I'm here. Cynthia may not be, but she told me to take care of you, damn it. And I'm taking care of you." And I'm like, "Okay." Remember the movie P.S. I Love You, where like all of the notes and gestures were written before he died, and it's incredible. It's like Cynthia just set up, like, all right, I may not be here, but damn it, you guys are going to take care of this girl because she's a hot mess. And they've done an incredible job. And on top of it, I have become closer to God. I have explored different friendships and different things that I would have never done before, but I went into a lot of things with an open heart thinking, okay, well, Cynthia would have at least tried this, like live a little. And in her honor, she's not here anymore. She was full of life and love and happiness. And I think, when there's really hard days, I'm like, well, at least you're still alive, Sarah. Like, it could be worse. Like, put your big girl panties on and do it, just like she'd tell you to do. And it's been hard, but it's been amazing at the same time. I had a friend who he had lost one of his good friends many years ago in a car accident. It was sudden, came out of nowhere, and he died instantly. And, with Cynthia, it was like you knew it, but you didn't know it. And there's still hope and there's still a chance. And it's just this roller coaster of what's going to happen. And the turmoil inside is awful. And I still got to say goodbye, which is amazing. But at the same time, you're angry. It's like, we went through all of this just to have you die. We went through all of this, like getting a little beacon of hope, a little sliver of maybe she's going to make it just for you to not make it. Like, it's devastating. And I remember asking my mom, she was a hospice chaplain for years. Again, one of the worst jobs I could think of, but she loved it. And she brought people to Christ before they passed away. She comforted them, all sorts of incredible things. And I told her about this kind of debate that my friend and I had. Like, is it easier if someone just goes suddenly, or is it easier when you know they're going to go? Like, what's easier? And my mom said, Sarah, death is death. Wow. That's pretty powerful. Death is death. If someone dies, it still hurts. It still sucks. And I will say, though, in that debate, or not even a debate, just that conversation, it was incredible that I did get to say goodbye. And I got to tell her how much I loved her. And I got to see her on one of her last good days on this earth. And, she was still in a hospital and in a drab hospital gown and not looking her best, but we still got to do the things that we love to do. We ate good food. We laughed. We cried. We did hair and we did makeup. And damn it, she had glitter on her when I was there. I made sure she had glitter on. I'm comforted in knowing that when I die, I get to see her again. And it's going to be one hell of a party. I can't even imagine. If her funeral party was that good, my God, I can't even imagine the celebration we're going to have in heaven. I'm so excited to see her again someday, but I know I have a lot of work to do here on earth, and I plan to do it. And one way that I describe her leaving was Cynthia sparkled in everything she did. She was just this beacon of glitter. Like, she had glitter all the time. You'd see glitter everywhere at her house. It's like a strip club, but not trashy by any means, but there was glitter everywhere. And it's like my whole life, a just giant glitter bomb went off. And when she died, it was like the cleaners came in and wiped up all the glitter from the floors and tried to get rid of every trace of glitter that was ever in this house and ever in my life. But every now and then, when you open the curtains and the light comes in and it shines just in the right spot, you'll see a little speck of glitter reflecting. And that's what it's been like since she passed. There are times that I feel her, I remember her. I'll be in like a department store and our song will come on out of nowhere. I've had my phone literally start playing music before and I'm like, where the hell is that coming from? And it's like our song. So she's still there. There are pieces of her that are still there. And even if physically she's not here and spiritually she's in heaven, there's so much that she left behind. And I am beyond grateful for it. There's nothing that could ever compare to that. So, how do you handle grief? What do you do when someone you love just dies? It's awful. There's nothing there's nothing exciting. You're not like, "Oh, yay, at least they went to heaven." Like, deep down, you're like, "Yeah, they went to heaven," but you're also like, "This fucking sucks." Like, they're dead. It is a horrible thing to go through, and there's not much that makes it easier, but I will say time can heal a little bit. It doesn't mean that their memory goes away or you stop thinking about them, but you immerse yourself in things that are good. You try to focus on the positive. You try to honor their legacy by doing good things in this world, and that's at least helpful. But there are days where you're like, this fucking sucks, and I'm gonna have a good fucking cry about it. And I have had many of those days. Last night, I was just boo-hooing thinking about doing this podcast. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through it, but I have. I think because I cried so much last night, I've been able to do this today. But it's a horrible feeling, and you're gonna go through the stages of grief, but one of the best thing that I can tell you is to allow it to happen. Let yourself grieve. You have to let yourself grieve. If you don't, if you bottle it up, just like I was bottling up all my emotions at the divorce, when she finally was like, "How are you really doing?" It's like, it just comes out. Like, it's gonna come out, and it's gonna come out in a profound kind of way, so you have to let yourself grieve. Woo! That was a doozy of an episode. We laughed, we cried. We went through I think we went through all of the stages of grief all in all in that one episode. Um, I hope to see you all next week. Hopefully this does get video uploaded. If not, then whatever, we tried. But I'm gonna leave you with this. Even if in your life it feels like all of the glitter has been wiped up and stripped from your life, there are still specks of it somewhere, and you have to find them. So to Cynthia, I love you, I miss you, and thank you for making me the woman that I am today.